Dear friends, good morning and a beautiful Sunday morning, the beginning of a new week. Number 102 in our inspiration series. And now, in the days leading up to the 9th of Tisha B'Av, Wednesday night and Thursday, we will be doing the temple series. One of the main events that happened in the temple on a regular basis was the idea of forgiveness, sacrifices, and prayer. Actually, one of the main laws of prayer that we learn, many of the details of how we pray, was from a prayer that happened in the temple from Hannah. And we find something very fascinating when it comes to prayer. And we read about it in these days as well. How Moshe tells the Jews, God had decreed that Moshe will not enter into the land of Israel, something he desired more than anything else. And he communicates to the Jews, V'aschanon el Hashem, that I prayed, I beseech from God. And we are told by the sages that Moshe uses this word because this word has a numerical value of 515. That Moshe prayed to God 515 times about the same thing. How quick do we give up when we want something? We ask once, we ask twice, we get frustrated, maybe a third time. By the fourth time we give up and we fold our hands and either we get upset or we just despondent or move on. Moshe prayed 515 times. Until God told Moshe, please stop praying, it's a decree that has to happen, and it will not change. But what's interesting is how Moshe prayed. And here we find something very fascinating. That Moshe never approached God and said, hey God, listen, I've done a great job. I've had many accomplishments in my life. I stood up to Pharaoh. I brought about the 10 plagues. I took the Jews together out of Egypt. I built up their faith so they would want to go out of Egypt. I made them defy the Egyptians by bringing the Paschal Lamb. We crossed them over the sea. We got them ready to receive the Torah on Mount Sinai. I dealt with them after every mishap that happened. I am a very great and deserving leader. God, you got to give me anything I want. I can demand because there's so much that I had done. And that would be right if Moshe would approach it that way. But that's not the way he approached prayer. And he said, V'eschanon, I asked God for matnas chinam, I asked God to give me what I'm asking for out of his grace, not out of any demand. Now why didn't Moshe demand? He had every right to demand, and he deserved it. It wasn't false, it was true. All of these claims that Moshe would make. But he didn't. Because he recognized that when you turn to God, when you pray, we don't pray to God as a tit for tat. Look what I did for you and do back for me. God is the infinite God. The blessings that come from God are infinite as well. Why limit it and create a finite blessing by just tying it into how much we have done? We are humans, we are finite. As great as we do, it's still a finite act. We want to tap into God's infinite goodness. When we ask for something, when we pray for a lot. We pray big. We pray to get the ultimate. We don't pray just to get a little bit. And this is a very important part for us. As we pray, because we're all praying to see this pandemic over. We're praying to be able to be together with our loved ones, that everyone should be safe. Financially, we should all be off and taken care of. There are a lot of things we're praying for now. So one of the most important things to remember when we pray, don't demand. Because if you demand, God may give you what you demanded, but it will be tied to the limit of what you did, which is always finite. Pray to God and tap into God's mercy, God's kindness, God's graciousness, because from there it flows endlessly. And this is at this time, I hope you all join me in prayer to God that He rebuild the third temple, He bring the Mashiach. We should be led out of this exile very quickly. Not only because we've endured 1950 years and yet we're still around and we haven't abandoned God, but because God is the merciful God. And the next temple He will give us will never be destroyed, will be greater than anything we've ever had, will be a true, complete redemption. May it happen quickly in our days. Join me in that prayer, and whenever we pray for God's infinite goodness, and God willing, it will happen. Have a great day. God bless.